Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. Today marks the 14th anniversary of the death of Pope John Paul II. The Holy Father died on Saturday, 2nd of April 2005 at 9:37 p.m. The first Polish Pope, he was also the first non-Italian Pope in 400 years when he was elected in 1978. The third longest serving Pope in history, he was canonised by the current Pope, Pope Francis, in 2014.
John Paul II was elected Pope on October 16, 1978, as the 264th successor to St. Peter. He was the first non-Italian Pope since 1523, as well as the first Slavic Pope in history. Over the course of his pontificate, the Holy Father completed 104 papal visits, including 8 to Poland. Over 300 million people converted to Catholicism during his time as the Pope. His pontificate lasted almost 27 years, which made him the third longest reigning Pope after St. Peter and Pius IX. Saint John Paul II died on April 2, 2005, aged 84. His funeral took place on April 8th. Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, the next Pope later known as Benedict XVI, celebrated the funeral mass, which was attended by several 100,000 people, including 300,000 Poles. This was the biggest funeral ceremony in world history. John Paul II was buried in the Vatican crypt. In 2011 he was beatified, and in 2014 he became a saint. During an evening vigil on Piłsudski Square, citizens of Warsaw will be able to listen to parts of the Pope's homilies and pieces sung by the choir of Center for the Thought of John Paul II. The Archbishop of Warsaw, Kazimierz Nycz, confirmed his presence at the event.
According to the Polish daily Super Express, the Polish government is working on a plan to exclude former communist apparatchiks from receiving one additional month's pension payment each year. This extra pension benefit is one of the Law and Justice government's proposals to help Polish pensioners with everyday expenses. The amount of pension received by retired communist functionaries is usually at the upper level, so it has been decided that they do not need the additional payment.
The 13th pension was supposed to be for all retirees, irrespective of income. Now, as reported by Super Express, the government is considering changes as a result of which the allowance may not be paid to retired judges and prosecutors from the communist era, as well as former officers of the communist security apparatus. It's very risky and, unfortunately, in my opinion, nothing will pan out, because under the previous regulation there is no full catalogue of functions subject to all these exclusions. Throwing everyone into one pot is very unfair.
Poprzednie ustawienie stworzono konkretnego katalogu, kto podlega tym wykluczeniom.
The possible new rules would in fact include retirees who are already receiving lower pensions since October 1st, 2017, on the basis of the Anti-Communist Functionaries Act. Those changes caused numerous protests at the time.
Może się pojawić spór oczywiście.
We might witness some protests as we had after the previous regulations. We have some pending lawsuits regarding the previous law, and the courts take matters on a case-by-case basis. All this would be a logical consequence of the previous changes and lowering the pension benefits to the communist secret police functionaries.
Logiczną konsekwencją tych założeń I tej ustawy
Publicist Tadeusz Purzański would go much deeper in removing former communist secret police functionaries from the 13th pension entitlement.
Ale również zostali pozbawieni przywilejów emerytalnych.
My wish would be that all of them would lose their special retirement benefits. So far, only functionaries of communist secret police and communist secret informants are subject to that law, but where are the communist military personnel? Where are the communist judges? Where are the Stalinist prosecutors? They made bogus accusations about people, they served horrible punishment. The retired judges and prosecutors might have the feeling of being singled out, saying that their military colleagues did not lose their benefits. The first reading of the draft regarding the additional pensions was initially planned for Tuesday at the Parliament's Social and Family Policy Committee, but this was postponed to Wednesday. Perhaps it is due to changes that are to be made to it.
The Polish government discussed possible changes to the Sunday trading ban today. It seems that any changes to the ban, which appears not to have benefited small shops at the expense of large stores, as had originally been hoped, will not be introduced before the autumn. Alexander Zajecka has more.
Politicians from the opposition parties have demanded changes be made concerning the Sunday trading ban, claiming that the restriction hasn't helped smaller stores and has made shopping more difficult for Poles. They also proposed different solutions, such as a new law guaranteeing 2 days of work for grocery store employees or simply higher salaries for those who work on Sundays. On the other hand, MPs from the Cookies 15 movement argue that it's the citizens who should decide, through a referendum, whether Sundays should be free from work. Meanwhile, politicians from the ruling Law and Justice Party are yet to give a definite statement concerning the Sunday trading ban, saying that the matter needs to be carefully analyzed first. First of all, 35,000 college students can no longer work on Sundays. Secondly, it's not true that such a ban is predominant in Europe. It's only present in Germany and Austria. The fact that they haven't made the report on the Sunday trading ban public means that it's probably unfavorable for the government. That's what I think, since the report will be made public in autumn, so after the parliamentary elections. And we know that this government likes to gloat about its achievements. But then again, it's just speculation. I think it's first of all the citizens' business whether they want free Sundays or not. If they don't, then the government should accept it and act accordingly. Our politicians think that every decision they make is a good one, but we should let the people decide for themselves. The matter is much more complicated than it seems. If the government acted merely upon what people think to be true, without any analysis, it would be unprofessional, so please give us some time. The full report on the economic influence of the Sunday trading ban will be published in autumn. Until then, as announced by the Minister of Enterprise and Technology, Jadwiga Emilewicz, the government will be analyzing the economic situation and the public opinion regarding the issue.
The national emergency on the United States-Mexican border, caused by the growing number of immigrants trying to cross into the United States, is deepening. Worst hit is the border town of El Paso, which has taken in more than 15,000 immigrants in recent weeks. It is estimated that 100,000 migrants crossed the US-Mexican border in March, the highest figure since the early 2000s.
The number of migrants trying to cross into the US has increased sharply in recent months. The two main points of entry are in Tijuana, across the border from San Diego, and Ciudad Juarez, bordering with El Paso. Representatives of the US Border Patrol are calling for the law to be changed, as the sheer number of fresh arrivals currently forces them to catch and release illegal migrants into the US. Look, this is the reality. There are large numbers of people that are being detained. The majority are people from Central America, from unaccompanied children to families. This is creating a bottleneck and a crisis to a certain point. The Border Patrol is at the point of releasing people into our communities precisely because we can't handle it anymore. The message here and what we're asking for is that the United States Congress acts and changes the laws so we don't have to contend with this. US President Donald Trump has responded to the crisis by announcing that he will close the border unless Mexico starts cooperating on immigration with the US authorities.
Mexico is doing very well because of the United States, and frankly, they have to stop the illegal immigration. We've run out of room. We have this ridiculous catch and release program where you catch them and then you're supposed to release them, and you release them into our country. And we've been very, very tough. And the Border Patrol has been incredible, I have to tell you. The people in the Border Patrol, the job they do is unbelievable. ICE, the same thing, and law enforcement. But Mexico is going to have to do something, otherwise I'm closing the border.
Many Mexican citizens are unnerved by the situation and argue that the massive influx of Central American and Caribbean migrants has a negative impact on their daily lives. We are being affected. I don't know why the migrants have come, they just come to bother us. Let us work and live our lives peacefully because they are not doing things as they should be done. Even criminals are coming. It's not good what they are doing, and Trump is right to close the border to those people, but we Mexicans will be affected, and that is not fair. In recent years, there has been a shift in border crossings from mainly single adult Mexicans trying to evade capture to Central American families and unaccompanied minors turning themselves in to border agents to seek asylum. Because of the limits on how long children can be held in detention, most families are released to pursue their claims in US immigration courts, a process that can take years.
That's it from the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, business and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.